Just
Oh, right now?
FYI. Yeah, just FYI. Good morning, everybody. It's me, San Martin, and we have done something different today. We ended up getting a new co-star to the city of Prescott. I tell you that much. But we're gonna do something a little bit different. But you're gonna have to wait for it. Check this out. All right, guys. All the time that we do anything, it's just like sporadic. It is what it is. Eric decided to go ahead and do an 8 a.m. morning call, say, hey, let's just start it earlier. And then he has to go and talk to somebody named Forbes or something like that. I don't know. He thinks he's important some days. So I ended up bringing up the most important person in this town. Obviously the second in line because it's Mayor Pro Tem. Without further ado, tell everybody who you are and what makes you famous.
Well, there is not much that makes me famous, really, in my mind. But I have the privilege of serving on Prescott City Council. Last year in November, I was made Mayor Pro Tem. So I am. What I tell people is I'm in a box of in case emergency break glass mayor. That's the way I tell people.
It's always a positive to go ahead and be just in case guy, and it really does make a difference, especially for our community. And this is the reason why you have reached out and now are on this show, is because you want to do public outreach. I think that the name of this is going to be, is it open office hours?
Yeah. So starting today, and today's a little bit different because of we had a meeting kind of come up last minute. But what we're doing is we're having open office hours at the library. So it's going to be on the third floor from 4 to 5 p.m. today. Normally it's going to happen and it'll be at 3 to 5, a bigger window for people to come in. But the thing I've been telling people is you've got something on your mind, you got an axe to grind about something the city of Prescott is not doing or should do in your mind or whatever it is, or even if you have something nice to say, come down. There'll be a room you can sit down. I'm going to be taking notes and, kind of providing feedback to city staff. And it's a way for me, one of the things that I was real proud that we did when we first got elected about a year and a half ago is we brought back what's called call to the public. So this is the ability for at our 3 p.m. voting session, people show up, and if they want to talk about anything that's not on the agenda, they grab a green card and they fill it out and they give it to the city clerk. And then we go through, pledge, the invocation, announcements, whatnot. And then the first thing on our agenda is to hear from those folks. And so it's actually really powerful. We had a guy come last week, right? And he lives over in the Yapa Hills area. And he was having that big rainstorm that happened, right? Where it was massive flooding, like kind of Diamond Valley area. Yeah. So this guy comes and he says, man, I live over off of Hornet, and this is, I had this really bad erosion happen, and like, I want you guys to do something about it. Now, the thing about call public is because of the laws in Arizona, like we're not able to like dialogue with that person. But what I always tell people is if you have an issue, it's really important to come down and do call public, because then you can say it in front of all 7 of us on council. But also, more importantly, in my mind, the city staff hears us hearing it. And so they know that we know that this person is complaining about it. And then, believe it or not, a lot of action comes out of that, right? People are like, oh, okay. City staff, suddenly, if you just call a city Prescott, you might not always get the responsiveness you want. And that's true of any organization, right?
Yeah.
But so this office hours is kind of the idea of a little bit different than the call to public, where you can come in and you can dialogue back and forth, and you can say, hey, Brandon, I'm concerned about this, or hey, Brandon, this is an issue that's affecting me personally. And I will give you resources. We're also going to have surveys that people can fill out to kind of, if they want to be a little bit more anonymous about it, they can, and there's going to be a QR code on there that they can scan and do it online, or they can just fill it out on paper if they're old school.
I've been seeing a few of them. They just pop up into the Prescott, Facebook in general, and says, hey, if you want to talk a little bit or, do this little survey.
So there's a separate survey we're doing too. So this survey is one that's just generalized. We're doing a survey as part of a general plan review, right? So City of Prescott has what's called a general plan. We do it about every 10 years. And so what that general plan, it says, what kind of community is Prescott wanting to have for the next 10 years, right? And
great question. If you guys are watching, what kind of community would you like for the city of Prescott?
Right.
Comment now. You're more than welcome to. We'll try to indulge into all of it.
Yeah. Well, so the great thing about the general plan is it's usually about a 2-year process. So there's a group of about like 11 people out there who who got appointed to this committee. And so they're going to kind of gather up a bunch of information from the community, put it into the general plan. The staff is going to kind of hone it and kind of revise it and make sure it's good. And then we'll put it on a ballot and people will vote on it.
Okay, this is we just started talking about it last week. Obviously there was a few things that we have learned in regards to how we could go ahead and summarize your guys' actual meeting without actually having to be there. And once again, time is everything, and we can't be everywhere. And
get a chat GPT to watch it.
That's what it comes down to. So we're able to go ahead and filter, the points of what the actual talk was. Sure. So I think every week, we are going to try to pinpoint and highlight the main focus of the meetings, and then you guys could go back and say, hey, I want to know more about this, and then it'll give you an opportunity. But one of the things that I do notice is that there's not many people wanting to go ahead and actually participate in those questions, those answers, until somebody makes a big stink about it.
Right.
I mean, it takes somebody that has a big voice in order for that to happen.
Right.
In regards to saying, hey, you know what, they want to do a lot of electrical vehicles in Prescott, and some people are like, oh wait, what about electrical vehicles? We have this question, but if you're not there to go ahead and talk with the council, then things start getting passed without the involvement of the community.
Right, and that's the perfect example in my mind. You kind of have to. There's this quote. I don't know who said it, but democracy is made up of people who show up. Right. Mm-hmm. We think of democracy as being like kind of this big thing. Well, it's a big democracy, right? But really what it is, it's the people who show up, and the first step you do is voting, obviously, right? And we talked about this a little bit, but there's an election coming up for council again. So in the city of Prescott, every 2 years we have an election. Mm-hmm. And so the mayor gets put up for vote every 2 years, and then we have 3 council seats come up every 2 years.
Do the council seats sit for 4 years, and then the mayor's only 2, right?
The mayor's only 2, and council sits for 4 years, and but it's staggered so that every 2 years someone's running for re-election. Now in this election, it's a little bit unique because we had a woman who got elected when I got elected named Jessica Hall, who for personal reasons had to resign her seat. So she only served for 6 months, and so we appointed someone to sit in her seat until the next election, which is now. So there's actually five seats open. Now the mayor's running unopposed, so it's not really. I mean, it's not like he's the mayor we've got at this point. But those 4 seats are all competitive, and so the remaining 4. So you've got 2 people running for the remainder of that 2-year term, and then you've got 3 people running for 4-year seats, and one of those people's an incumbent. But you've got 3 brand new people, and I hope you guys do get all those people on here, because I think it's really important for people to know. Who are these people? What are they about? What is their vision for Prescott? I'll say one of the things I did, and I came on here when I was running, is get out there and talk to people so they know what you're about and what you think. And
that's how they get to know you.
Yeah.
That's how they get to know you and your ambition and why would you want to go ahead and as you said, that this is a very time consuming position. You have a business, you have a family
kids
to take care of, and you said I'm going to step up just a tad bit more to go ahead and create something that's actually an open dialogue.
Yeah, well, and so my hope is that I'm going to get the ball rolling. My hope is that some of the other members of council will see what I'm doing, and they'll kind of be like, hey, this is really cool, I want to do this too. And then it can kind of be a mix, like people can rotate in. But so we're doing the open office hours today. The other thing I wanted to mention to you, if you can't make it, it's a little bit short notice on the open office hours, and we're only doing from 4 to 5 today, like I said. But I'll also be at the farmers market on Saturday, June 3rd from 7:30 to noon, and I'll have a booth there, and I'll be there all day, kind of just hanging out, talking to people. I might get one of those little signs that says, I'm Mayor Pro Tem of Prescott, change my mind. Like that guy who's got
ask me any question. There was a little booth where a bunch of old guys, they're like, hey, ask us any questions and we'll give you the answer.
Right. Yeah. You might not like it.
Yeah, you might not like it.
So that's great. And farmer market's a great thing to come out, and the nice thing is it's a way to kind of hopefully do a little promotion for the farmers market. Not that they really need it. I think it's super successful.
Yeah, no, they're doing their thing for sure.
And there'll be some giveaways there too. So if you come and see me, you'll walk away with something. I won't say what it is. I'll tease it so that people will be interested.
We'll give you some hot chocolate.
Something, I don't know. And then the other thing we're doing is we're doing a Facebook Live on Tuesday, June 20th at 1 p.m. And we're going to have our brand new city manager on there. So that'll be really exciting. Katie Gregory is her name. She replaced our old city manager, Michael Lamar, who was here for about 7 years. So she was a deputy city manager down in Peoria. She came up here. She's got, I think, about 25 years of experience working.
Yeah, she got a great response on the press release that we put on Facebook. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, we love you!"
Yeah. She's really excited. She's going to move her kids up here. She's got she's really engaged in the community and has great ideas, tons of energy. The thing that I love about Katie is that she talks about taking Prescott to the next level. And what I think she means by that, or not to put words in her mouth, but she just sees the opportunity for Prescott to kind of build on what it already has, right? We don't want to turn it into Phoenix or something crazy like that, but we just want to highlight the things that are really great about this community because so many people love Prescott.
Yeah. So let's go into a couple of things that you could also talk about to the viewers.
Sure.
In regards to what is actually happening in Prescott. Some of the big questions just recently. I mean, this is the stuff that we all have to live for. Is the cats, the mountain lions?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the mountain lions came in. I mean, obviously you guys technically don't really enforce much in that avenue, but you got to still, listen to the citizens, and that type of stuff happens. But what else is there currently right now that you would love for the audience and the community of Prescott to know about?
That's a good question. I think,
that one thing that we should probably be really focused on, or in regards to, hey, we got to be, involved if we want to see change.
Yeah. So I would say the thing that jumps to my mind is the general plan right away, right? That's a really big deal. And it's one of those things that it goes on the ballot. It makes a real impact in our community because essentially what that is, it's like a governing document of this is our plan for the next 10 years. And that really matters, I think, to people to know what that says. So that's number one in my mind. The other thing I would say to people out there, a great way to just kind of stay engaged about what's happening is going to planning and zoning meetings, right? Planning and zoning happens 2 Thursdays a month. And essentially what they do is they kind of get together and let's say you own a piece of property and you want to change the way you're using that property. Well, the process is you go to planning and zoning. There's 7 people there that kind of hear your proposal and they kind of thumbs up, thumbs down. And then if they thumbs up and say, yep, you're good, you go to the city council. What I find has happened in the year and a half I've been on council is that a lot of times people will say, well, I didn't know anything about this. Well, they advertise it. They notify the neighbors. When you make a big zoning change, like there's a radius that you have to do. So anything you can do to stay active and engage. A big thing is follow the City of Prescott page, the official City of Prescott page on Facebook, because that's huge for knowing kind of what's going out there. And I know you're always boosting that too, and so that's good.
We're trying to keep everybody alert in regards to it. Sometimes they just don't want to hear the whole little. This is what happened. This is what's going on, and they just want to hear the question and then the answer of it. And I'm that type. I'm the same guy. I 100% am the same guy. But this is an open dialogue that you are going to present to the community of Prescott, and that's huge because if nobody is listened to, then everybody feels like they're unheard.
Yeah.
But it also takes a community to go ahead and go in there. But I also think that there is somebody that needs to just stand up and just be there to go ahead and say, hey, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? Did you see this?
Right.
Did you want to see that?
Well, I'll give you a couple examples of hot topics, right? Yeah, no, it is. So hot topics. One of the really big things that's kind of on people's mind right now is there's a road expansion that they're talking about doing called the Sundog Connector. Mm-hmm. So you may have heard people talking about this. There's an organization that serves the Yavapai County area called Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization. Most people just don't want to say all that, so they just call it CYMPO, CYMPO, CYMPO. And they have put forward kind of an idea of a connector road between do you know where the roundabout over by the Humane Society is? Mm-hmm. So if you go to the roundabout, there's something that says Sundog, and then it says, closed. The idea is that it would go from there to connect to Sundog Road that's in Prescott Valley. Now, what's controversial about it, I should say, is that some of the people who live in Yapa Hills are like, oh, we don't really want a major road going through our neighborhood.
Oh, we didn't want major people coming through our cities.
Yeah, right. So
you.
everyone has an opinion about it, right?
Yep.
And or most people have an opinion about it. And so Simpo has been doing a series of like kind of meetings about it to get community feedback. There's going to be a study that they've done that they'll release, and so that's an area where I would say people can provide feedback, right? If there is something on. Other thing I'll mention that is kind of a hot topic in the same idea is that the rodeo released a master plan, and then they got $15 million of money from the state of Arizona to
15 or 50.
15, 1 5.
The Prescott Courier put it on their front page, $40 million.
So here's how that works, or here's my understanding how that works: is it's $15 million, and that's the money they got from the state, that 1 5. They have to go and get additional funds up to the $40 to $45 million that it's going to take to do the complete facelift to the rodeo grounds. Now, and here's the thing, it's a massive redesign of the rodeo grounds. And so it is a controversial topic where people are like, I don't know if I really want this. Like, and if you live in that neighborhood, if you people, I used to live in that neighborhood maybe 10, 15 years ago, right? And in my mind, I lived there and I was like, yep, once a week in July, it'll be like all day, all night. I'll just be hearing the rodeo, and that's fine. But it's like once a week in July, no big deal. Part of what they're kind of trying to do is expand the rodeo's usage. And then, there's some arguments for that. There's some against it. But I think people need to be engaged about that and get their voices heard. If you're like, yep, this is a great idea, we need to hear from you on city council. If you're like, nope, I don't want this at all. And you guys did this a little while ago, you and Eric, and I really appreciate it when you did this. You talked about, there was that guy who wanted to develop the hotel on Whiskey Row, right? Yep. And it was like this big monstrosity that he wanted to do. And again, people came out kind of in force, and I got tons of emails from people that said, hey, we don't want you to change the character of Whiskey Row this way. We don't want something this big. We don't want something that's going to cast a shadow on our courthouse, right? And so that's the big thing I would say is, if you can't come to the farmers market, if you can't, come to the open office hours, or if you can't tune in on Facebook, I will tell you, my email is brandon.montoya@prescott-az.gov. And that is for a lot of people, that's the quickest and easiest way to get a hold of me. Yep. And I just, shoot an email there. I reply to every email from constituents, or I really try to. And if there's an issue that's on your mind or a concern you have, just shoot that to me. I also, and I probably will get in trouble for this, but if you do have a question, you just want to reach out to me directly too, you can call me. I don't hide my phone number from people, because I feel like as an elected official, I owe to the people to be able to reach out and touch me. And I think Prescott's a small enough community that
we chatted about this a while ago. It was kind of funny. You're going to probably laugh about this, but the tow truck drivers is married to one of my favorite uncle's daughter.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, when they started inserting, I was like, whatever, let's talk about this. And so, to come to find out, you jumped in and you said, hey, listen, if there's somebody that's actually having a struggle or whatever, we want to go ahead and help out this scenario. Yeah. And sometimes, things happen like that. And it's in regards to the tow truck thing. Right. And I know a lot of people actually commented after that, even off the air and even off online. And it was like, you got to understand both, sides of it.
Oh, yeah.
When you are actually trying to go ahead and create probably one of the biggest things that are happening downtown Prescott, Arizona, it's like, not to drive and park there. So right. This is one of those things that you did help out,
Yeah.
You
and
came out of nowhere land.
That's
here I am.
That's what I would say. If people want to reach out to me, they can reach out to me directly. My personal phone number is 928-460-0972. Yeah, I don't. It's on my website too. I don't care. People can reach out to me, and you'll call me. And here's the thing I always tell people: my business is an appointment-based business. So if I'm in a meeting and I see a phone number come up that I don't recognize, I'm not going to answer it. Mm-hmm. But you can leave a voicemail and tell me what you think, and I'll hear it. And if you have questions or concerns, I want to hear from people, because to me, I take this job. It's a big responsibility, and what I think of as, and this is, I think, what people should consider when they're looking at this election coming up, is that City of Prescott city councilors, in my mind, our job is to be a megaphone for the community, right? For us to say, for people to come to me and say, hey, this is what I think about this. This is what I think. And then you build, and that's how democracy works in my mind, especially representative democracy, where you're coming to people and you're saying, I voted for you. I'm holding you accountable to do these things that are important to me. That's how it works. And so people, again, I'll tell you the thing that, and I get it, right? People are busy. They have jobs. They have lives. They don't want to come on the first and third Tuesday of the month and sit down for hours while we talk about roads and whatever, right?
Well, the people that are actually working.
Yeah.
General.
No, and I get it, and so I don't begrudge anyone for not not coming. I mean, it's funny. My wife came to one of the meetings, and she sat there with my son who's 7, and they're kind of sitting there, and she finally just texted me. She said, "This is too boring. I've got to go." Like, she's like, I'm out. She's like, "Come meet me at the restaurant after you're done." She's like,
and it happens. And so I think that we want to try to facilitate that middle ground by saying we could take the dialogue from each video and do the highlights where, we could go ahead and be a little bit more direct with, the conversation, because it technically is quote unquote boring. But these are where the answers and the questions start, and this is how you get somewhere.
Well, and some of it is right. Like, what might be boring to you might not be boring to this person over here, because it's impacting them directly, right? And so I think what you have to kind of separate from the shaft there a little bit is like, okay, what are the big, some of these, and this is easy to do in a small town, right? They're like kind of big issues that impact the whole community. And then there's like kind of micro issues that impact certain parts of the community or certain neighborhoods, right? And so if you don't live over by the rodeo grounds, you might not care about that, right? You might be like, I live over in Yapa Hills. What do I care about the road? I don't even hear it, right? But it's understanding, kind of connecting the dots to the bigger picture, right? How does this impact us as a city?
Yep. And this whole, and I don't forget, we also do have the oldest Northern Arizona oldest fair.
Yeah.
That happens there too every year.
Yeah.
Which is a great little impact for the community, and also for things to do here. I believe that some of these things that are changing in our community, or maybe even being better, is something that is a part of what we see in our communities in general, as far as meaning, people moving here, wanting to do other things, wanting to create this, wanting to go to create that. And that's what we see, is we're seeing change. And sometimes it's open arms, and sometimes it's like, let me hear about this, how it's going to affect us. And the connector, in my head, I'm thinking, yes, another way to get to Prescott Valley could obviously be way more like convenient, easy to obtain,
right?
And you don't have to travel the 65-mile-an-hour road, or you have to travel the break and stop road. And then there might be a one in the middle, that would be like, hey,
right.
just a cruise through. But once again, you got to go to understand what the impacts are going to be for not only the community, but and just like you said, if I don't live in the Yavapai County or Yavapai Hills, what does it matter to me? But the people that do live in Yavapai County Hills, they're just like, hey, bro, we don't want that in our backyard.
Right. And that's the thing you have to kind of, and my job in as much as it's possible is to kind of hear both sides, right? And it's funny because someone reached out to me from one of the local publications, and they said, hey, I'm trying to get an understanding of where different city council members are at with the Sundog Connector. I said, okay. I said, I don't really, we have what's called open meeting law, which means that we can't convene a meeting outside of when we're supposed to have a meeting. What does that mean practically? It means that I can't call, just because I know the city, other people in city council, I can't call and say, hey, here's what I think about the Sundog Connector. What do you think? Because what happens is you start having a meeting outside of the meeting. So we have to be really careful how we communicate with one another. And we're all really good at it, I think. But the thing that I think that's important, with this is, this person called me and said, what do you think about it? I said, well, or what does council think about it? What's your sense of what council thinks? I said, I don't really know, because I haven't talked to any of them about it, because I'm not really supposed to. I said, but here's the thing that I think, and this is how I make my decisions on big issues for the city of Prescott. I will hear what, there's this this kind of word called subject matter experts, SMEs, right? People who it's their job, right? So you might have an SME. I'll give you an example of Prescott, the fire department, right? Who are the SMEs in the fire department? Well, the fire chief, right? If there's an issue about how to fight fires in this community, I'm going to go to the Holger Dura, the fire chief, and I'm going to say, hey, Holger, what about this? What about this? Tell me more about this. How can the city of Prescott do this, right? So the first thing I'm going to do on any controversial topic is I'm going to talk to those people, right? So with roads, that's public works, right? So I'm going to talk to public works people who work for the city of Prescott and say, what do you think about this road? What do you think its impacts are? It's also a community development issue. So I'm going to go talk to our community development people, right? I'm going to talk to our economic people. I'm going to talk to all those people, get their perspectives, right? And then I'm going to hear from other people who are constituents in the community, right? People who may live in Yavapai Hills who are like, I don't want this. People who may live over by, South Prescott and say, I don't really care, or, whatever, like, what does it matter to me? I'm going to hear all those perspectives, right? And then I'll kind of have a formulation of what I think about it. But then I'll sit down and I'll be at the dais with the other, 6 people who serve on council. And what will be interesting for me is then I hear what they say. And I don't come to those meetings with my mind made up, because I don't think that's the right way to approach it. I come and I kind of have an idea of what I think, an idea of what I'm kind of convinced of maybe. But the thing that I think is really important for council people is to be able to change their mind in the moment. Not that you're flip-flopping, but that you're being thoughtful and approaching it in a considerate way.
Balance, in other words.
Yeah.
And in regards to, having, so many voices, it really does take, a few like impacting conversations and ideas, and also experts to come in and just, help make that decision. So I'm glad that you're opening up. I'm glad that you're doing this dialogue. I'm glad that the community is able to go ahead and call you at any given time to go ahead and ask a question. Do something.
I've got the do not disturb on my phone, so you can't wake me up. I go to bed early.
I'll be like, bro, I'm calling him at 9. He's like, I'm nope, in bed. So with that being said, I want you guys to definitely, I put it into the comments on the open office hours, and also when he's going to be at the farmers market.
Perfect.
And also on June 20th with the live
Prescott Facebook Live,
Prescott Live, we'll go ahead and try to get that aired as well. So you guys could have, different locations, different platforms to go ahead and make sure that you see this. But I tell you what, this is a great time to go ahead and see this.
And I appreciate you helping San Martin, because to me, you have such a big network of people that see the stuff you put out. And so to me, anything you can do to amplify that so that people know that, hey, it's funny. I'll tell you the story real quick, and then I'll be done with this. But I had a opportunity to go do a career day, right? And they said, will you come to the school and do a career day? And they had like the police guy, the fire guy, and then they had a city council person. I'm like, and these guys had like props and stuff. And I'm like, I'm just going to show up in a suit and be like, I work for the city of Prescott too. But it was really funny is one of the things I was trying to think, how can I make this interesting for kids? And I said, okay, we get to one room, and I said, how many of you kids here have parents that live in the city of Prescott? And it's a local school, and almost everyone raised their hand. Yeah, I got it. We live in Prescott. I said, my boss is your parents. Like every one of you who have parents who live in the city of Prescott who can vote, they're my boss. Those are the people I'm accountable to. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's kind of what I think about this, is that if I don't know what is on your mind or what was kind of important to you, then I can't help affect the change, or not affect the change that you want to see in the community. Yeah. So to me, I'm very much, I want to be accountable. I want to be accessible to people. Billy Orr, who passed away fairly recently, I think of her as someone who I would go and see, and you probably had this experience too. I would go to an event and I'd see Billy Orr there. I'd be like, God, I just saw her like at another event, like maybe a couple hours ago. She was everywhere. And I don't know that I can do it. Anyone can do it as well as Billy did it. But I'm trying to kind of step up my game to be, accessible to people as much as possible.
Well, it's a big deal, because technically, we all need to go ahead and put our minds together to go ahead and keep Prescott the way that we want Prescott to be, beautiful and charming, and also being able to drive around without having an issue with traffic. It is what it is. I know that if I drive earlier to my office, no traffic. If I decide to leave a little bit earlier during the time of the day, no traffic. It's actually, easy peasy. But dang, during those little rush hours,
Willow Creek Road's a busy road, man. I'll tell you what,
rush hours,
right? And what's crazy is I think some of us got used to during the pandemic when everything was like people weren't leaving their houses or whatever. Some of us got used to like the roads not being busy, and then now everyone's kind of past it, and
you're like, what in the heck?
It's like Frogger out there, man.
Went to the wrong time of the day, that's for sure. But I'm looking forward to having you back on the the show in regards to some of the things we could talk about. We could go ahead and bring back up some of those issues of what is going to happen. I mean, I know that the new city building is getting torn down, and it's
the old city hall. Yeah,
the old city hall. And then, I haven't even put out a rendition or the rendition that they want, but I've heard through the grapevine, like people are like, that doesn't look like Prescott. I was like, well, at least it's not on Whiskey Row.
I've gotten a lot of that feedback too. And I will say, and this is what I just real quickly on that one, I will say that people that I've talked to about it, I said, there is a process to this. And what happens, it's an iterative process, right? So someone who says, I want to develop this piece of land, they submit their bid to the city and we say, yep, we're going to sell it to you. What happens is it goes through planning and zoning. Because of the location of that building, it goes through the Preservation Commission, and it also has to get approved for water, so it goes through the Water Issues Subcommittee. So three different committees with different folks kind of look at it and say,
the Historical Society on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So different folks are all going to put their eyes on it and say, yeah, I don't like this, or we don't like this. And so the person's, each time they go before one of those councils or boards, they're going to change it, and then all of those are public processes, right, too? So if you're concerned about that, pay attention to those things so that you can come down and say, hey, this doesn't look like what we want. Or maybe, hopefully, it'll have changed to something that meets your kind of desires a little bit more. And so, yeah, this is good. I want you guys to do this.
Yep. Well, there's a few things that we could talk about. Next time I come around, I'll have some impacting questions and whatnot.
Put it out there. But you know what? Put out a AMA on it. Ask me anything. Brandon Montoya, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right. Yeah, we could definitely do that. I will ask those questions now, and then he will answer them the next day.
Yeah.
Or the next business day.
All right.
With that being said, I'm Matty here. Obviously, he has things to do. I have things to do. It's Taco Tuesday. Go out and do something great and enjoy what our community has given us.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. See you later. Bye.